Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins here. We're back with Congressman Tim Burchett. People got a lot of questions. What happened to the UFO report? It's been promised to us. The deadline has passed, and so far, still nothing. Let's
Well,
get to it, Tim. What's up with it? Why haven't we gotten the report? People have been saying that it's past the deadline. It's kind of unconstitutional that we're not getting this report that it's promised to us. What's happening?
first of all, they trusted Congress. I mean, why would you trust a bunch that has been responsible for covering this up for, since at least since the late 40s, since Roswell, or the federal government has, and then as a branch of it, the United States Congress. I mean, it's like military intelligence or something. It's just not congressional integrity. It's just not going to happen. It's so deep, and the cover-up is so wide and broad that I think it's just continuing, and this just further proof of that. They put out that bogus report that you and I could have written on a cocktail napkin.
It's interesting, right? That just recently now the DOD is stating that all these videos were just basically nothing except airborne trash in most cases, or just simply drones. Why were they hyping it up as something so unknown, maybe something hostile in nature, but now they're just coming forward and saying, oh, don't worry about it. It's just mundane stuff like trash or drones. What's up with this?
I think you had some people that were honestly trying to put the truth out, and then the higher ups, the people in charge, the string pullers, they shut it down. That's what I think it is 100%. I just think this furthers the talk of a cover-up, and it should, because it's exactly what it is. We are experiencing, I feel like possibly the biggest story of our lifetimes, and it's just kind of being brushed aside. And they're hoping that the American public will, as I've stated many times, we want our pizzas in 30 minutes or less, and that's about our attention span. And I think that's what they're counting on. They're counting on us just losing interest and it going away.
Do you think it's working?
I do. I really do. It frustrates me. Surprised me. Just the interest and the number of calls I've gotten has decreased. I mean, your hardcore folks are going to be keep going after it, but they're used to it. They're used to being treated like this. But it's the whole thing is bogus, man. I mean, we got hosed in the original report, and the hosing is continuing, I guess, for like phrase. And I would hope that maybe some of the new members of Congress and the public, for instance, I've said, call your congressperson, say, hey, I want this report. Call, and I suspect some of them do it, but the vast majority will not. Why, I don't know. It's an easy thing to do. You can send an email and just get on the record. And I think that's part of it too. People in my position are afraid of the issue. Afraid being called out. But like I've stated many times, I mean, what got me started in the national spotlight on this issue, I've always been a follower of the issue and a believer in it. But when I said that more people believe in UFOs and believe in Congress on TMZ, and then I printed a crazy T-shirt on my website, it was selling out. So, I mean, I think the public is there. It's just that they're going to lose their attention. And it's and the powers that be know that. I think they'll continue to do what they're doing with other issues. I mean, for goodness sakes, we haven't even gotten the Kennedy files out yet, and that's just, to me, is just an indictment on the arrogance of Washington D.C. and the folks in power.
It's interesting because over the past couple of years, maybe about 2 or 3 years, there's been these talking heads that have come into the UFO community, basically, on YouTube, Twitter, and saying that they're going to destroy ufology, such of the likes of like Lou Elizondo. I know you've had an interview with them earlier, and you might have had association with Lou, but he came into the community saying that he wanted to blow it up and little pieces and destroy it from the inside out. And since then, the field has got real toxic, and now it's all this infighting, and it's not really keeping the eye on the ball, the prize, disclosure. And that's what we're trying to do right here at Third Phase Moon, is try and bring disclosure, especially from the public. And like you say, people need to reach out to the congressman. As a public citizen myself, you were pretty uh, compatible with getting back to me, which was very cool. A lot of congressmen, we've reached out to them, and a lot of people, like you say, don't really want to touch the subject matter, but you're giving us this interview. This is your second time here on Third Phase Moon, so we appreciate your openness in regards to this subject, and your statements is in regards to this cover-up, and we believe it. Do you think there's people that have been infiltrating the community, trying to sway and kind of bring down the whole community?
Oh yeah, I mean, that fella out there out near Area 51, his house got raided, and his poor girlfriend got drug out of his other house in her underwear. I don't know if you've been following that.
Yeah.
It's real. The intimidate. I don't know what he's done. He's probably took a picture or something he shouldn't have a picture of, but sending a dozen FBI agents in your house armed, kicking the door down, to me is a little overkill, because I think this is a very sensitive issue, and they're going to wrap it up in national defense, and that's why a lot of the footage you won't ever see, because they're saying, well, this is obviously something else that it isn't, but they're going to hide it in secrecy. Shows maybe some American installation that we don't want to admit that we have, or some technology that we have, sonar or radar capabilities or things like that we can show to the Russians. Not that there's actually something in our airspace that we don't control, and that, as we've admitted, has had close collision, almost a collision, with, I think, 14 different times we've documented it. And that's been in the public record. That's not anything secret. And another way they do it is they'll say, oh, you want to see the files on this, the briefing on this? And everybody's like, well, sure, yeah. And then you go to this briefing, and then from there on out, you're not allowed to talk about it, or you can be brought up on espionage charges or something like that. And that's why I've quit going to a lot of these meetings, just because of that very fact, because they will put you into one of those situations where you can't talk about it, even if it's something you already knew about. And I know I'm getting off topic here, but you always wonder why some of these high up members all of a sudden turn on the issue, or just kind of drop it altogether. I think a lot of members have been compromised, honestly. I think you go overseas, you go on these CODELs, they call them, congressional delegation overseas, and you don't stay in the Motel 6s, and you're at the fancy restaurants and the fancy bars, and some pretty lady walks up to you and starts paying you attention, and next thing you know, you're in a motel room, and there's pictures of it, and dadgummit, somebody owns your ass after that. And that's how it happens. That's exactly how it happens. And they know who these type of people are. I mean, I was in Nashville. Remember, they never tried to pry me with liquor or anything, or any drugs or anything, because they already knew my background when I became a state legislator. And up here, it's they don't need somebody like me. They own other ranking members on both parties. So I suspect there's a lot of things that are behind it, but eventually, the only way this is ever going to, say this again, and the only way this is ever going to become a mainstream public, blow the lid off of it kind of thing, is when a member of one of these organizations comes forward with something, some hard proof, a video or something, and he puts it out on the internet before he can commit suicide by shooting himself in the back of the head 3 times. I just think that there's a lot going on here, and that we need to start paying attention.
Are there videos or certain information that Congress has been privy to that's classified that you've seen yourself that shows anything to you that is extraordinary, that proves that there's an existence of some kind of life form not of this earth, operating some kind of vehicle that is high in propulsion, meta propulsion, that we're unaware of? Have you seen anything specific? Not going into detail, but
that's all right. No, I don't go to those meetings, because there again, if I go to one of those meetings, and I'm not invited a lot of it, honestly.
Have they denied you access?
Oh, absolutely. Intelligence committee. You're not on the intelligence committee, you don't get invited. I was at that meeting that kind of was supposed to blow the lid off of it, and it was just I said we got hosed when they had the two gentlemen who didn't know anything about the issue that are heading up whatever they're heading up for the intelligence committee, and that was a very rare committee meeting that they did not hold in secret. And and I asked, they told me I was going to get to ask a question. And then when it was about my time, I got a text from one of the members and said, in fact, no, you will not be able to ask a question. So the whole thing is just, it's just very frustrating. It's just a huge cover up. You'd think you get to Congress, you could probably find out some of these things, but in fact, no, there's several more layers. And honestly, people like me don't get on the intelligence committee that are going to rock the boat. There are not a lot of boat rockers, as I would say, at least in our party, that make it to the intelligence committee. I would hope if Kevin McCarthy becomes speaker and some of those 3 or 4 positions become available, I'd hope he'd consider me. But I suspect that will not ever happen. I'd be very surprised if it did. I'd be pleased, but I'd be very surprised.
That'd be an interesting maneuver. Things are changing up in Washington, no doubt. And congratulations on your recent win in Congress, taking it once again. But back to the subject of this cover-up. What do you think they're afraid of not letting the public know? Are they just afraid of admitting that there's something out there that they can't control, that's superior in weaponry possibly than what we have? Or is it something religious based where it'll defy people's beliefs and it's something to do with religion? What do you think it is? That the fear of
I think it's arrogance. I think it's, you see that in leadership in any group. You get in college, you're in a fraternity and there's a little clique that kind of runs the thing. You get into politics and, you think, gosh, I want to be that guy, and you never get to be that guy or gal unless you pretty much sell your soul. So it's, to me, it's just like a lifelong pursuit of something I'll probably never get. I'll never get to see behind the curtain just because frankly, I'm not kissed enough butt. And that's just that's the bottom line, man. I hope that's not something that gets you in trouble with your censors, but I just that part about it frustrates me. I think though, I'm a born again Christian, and I have no problem believing that God in His infinite wisdom could create something more than me or than us. And like I tell you this every time. My dog, one of them down here asleep below me here. I got 3 of them in the house right now. Hope my wife doesn't see that. Only 2 of them are supposed to be in the house, but one of them's a wild man. But go out every night, when I take them out to go to the bathroom in the backyard, and I look up those crazy stars in the sky, and I just think, wow, the light from those stars left that star before the time of Christ. I mean, that is the vastness of this incredible universe that God's created. And so I have no problems religious otherwise. It doesn't bother me. That aspect. And there they are barking again. Sorry. If I got to, I'll just walk up there and put them in the backyard so that they won't. Hang on a second. Roscoe, hush up. Come here.
Come on, Roscoe. Yeah. That's good. We love dogs.
Yeah.
So do you think, you say we need disclosure? It doesn't matter. Just give it to us. Do you think the world would be ready for it? Or is it just basically, it's just too much that the government will never admit that there's something out there that's higher than them in technology? And if you were to bring that information forward, they're either going to take you out or they're going to pay you out, one or the other. There's just no in between. We might be going up against a brick wall trying to get answers from the government. And I know you're a government official elected, but are we wasting our time asking these questions from our government from
No,
here on out?
no, but if enough people did, I think you'd see a change. But the problem is that, so we've been talking about this since Roswell or before, but that the cover up has been so long and it's so compartmentalized. And I always go back to this. I live here in Knoxville, but in Oak Ridge National Laboratory is backed up to I don't represent that district, but over 6,000 people that work out there live here. When I was first running for office, there was still, my dad was a World War II veteran, but there's a lot of people that worked there during the Second World War and they developed the bomb. And they honestly did not know what they were doing. They compartmentalized it so well, and they did it so confined that they could not, that nobody knew what the heck the other person was. Men and women married didn't know what their spouse was doing because of national security interests and the way they did it. Nowadays, though, everybody's got a dadgum cell phone. Everybody's looking for a bestseller or a quote on Twitter or something. So it's harder to keep the secrets. But I think that most of the people that knew this stuff have passed away. And I don't think, and I think those secrets have died with them, and that they passed along something, but they don't know what precluded it, if that makes any sense. And so I think that material or craft or whatever they are have been passed on and are in somewhere in the business community in some of the top echelons of their research. And they in fact do not know what they're working on, other than they're working on something to do something, and they don't know where the material came from or where. And I've actually talked to people like that. I've talked to scientists that have stated, in fact, they're not sure what they're working on came from or what it's about. All they know is they're trying to get to this point from where they're at, and they're using that to get there. And so, and I've talked to former military pilots who told me they think it's a skunk works operation, but they don't know if it's something that we obtained somewhere and are trying to develop it elsewhere. And I said, how many people would it take? He said, probably take around 100 or so. But that, to me, that's just hard to keep that secret. So I go back to the original premise. I think it is something that has come from outer space, and that if anybody knows enough about it, they're keeping it to themselves.
Well, it's that SCI, sensitive compartmentalized information, where
Right.
it's so sensitive and compartmentalized. People don't even have access to what's going on in the room next to them, or it's so spread out.
Correct.
That it is a secret that can be kept, where some people state that the government's incapable of keeping secrets because we're so inadequate. Do you believe in that statement, or are we keeping something above top secret that's so sensitive that could change the world, that our government's successful at keeping this suppressed?
I think we're inadequate. I mean, honestly, I think we're pretty poor, and I think we're very poor at secret. And that goes back to my original thought that the secrets probably have died with somebody else, and the whatever they've got has been passed on, and they're not sure where they got it from or what it came from or where or who. And so I think in that regards, it's still compartmentalized, if that makes sense. I think it's and also, I mean, I guess the threat of losing your life would be a good inspiration to me to keep my mouth shut.
We've asked the public. I said, hey, look, we're going to be speaking with Congressman Tim Burchett this morning. If you guys have any questions, shoot them my way. And I got a text from Dr. Stephen Greer, and he asked this. He says, is the congressman aware of the 1,100 military intelligent corporate whistleblowers?
Not officially, no.
Is he aware of the deep cover-up inquiry currently going forward in the senior oversight committees?
I hear about things like that just on the peripheral. So I don't have any direct knowledge because I am not on that committee. That would be in fact, the intelligence committee. I'm,
So,
I'm, I'm not trying to be evasive. I'm just telling you because from if I hear something, in the hallways or something, that doesn't make it a fact. And then if I hear it in the committee room, I mean, if I'm in a secure briefing, I can't comment on it. I can't even comment on it if I've been there or not. So if I haven't been there, I can comment and say I have not been there, if that makes sense.
absolutely. Your suspicion of Skunk Works possibly ascertaining some high-end technology being suppressed from the public that kind of would maybe mimic the Tic Tac or some of these otherworldly craft. What would it take to maybe possibly, do like what they just did to this poor guy in Nevada and raided his place? Why can't we raid one of these high-end corporations like Skunk Works and see what they have in their assets? Would that be possible?
I think it's a hand in glove symbiotic relationship, I guess, between the corporate world and our federal government. I just don't think it. I think they're attached, I guess, and so I don't know how you'd even go about that. You'd have to have a pinpoint of where it's at, and you'd have to have a federal court that would be sympathetic to your cause, and you'd have to have a reason to have that. And just say it doesn't exist, and we know this has to be. There would have to be, I suspect, some sort of criminal activity that you would have to investigate, or they lie about it. And all they have to do is say we're not allowed to comment on that, and that's it.
We've also heard of some case scenarios if there were to be some kind of raid on some of these facilities that have this kind of technology, that there would be some kind of fail-safe, some kind of switch that would self-destruct the place, kind of like a Mission Impossible. If you come into this, we're going to take it out and nobody's going to see it. Along those lines, pretty much straight out like a James Bond movie, but this is real life. Again, how far advanced do you think these craft are? Do you think?
I suspect they've infiltrated so much and they know what's going to happen that they would have a pretty good heads up before something like that were to ever happen. I don't see that scenario happening, just because it's horrible for me to say, but I have a very deep distrust for government and the people, and some of the people higher up in it. And I'm in Congress. I mean, there's more people that played professional football than have been in professional baseball, excuse me, that have been in the halls of Congress. So it's a very very small club, but you're talking about a very, very small club when you talk about those kind of things.
So are we ever going to get this report, or are they just going to do these stall tactics?
I will get something. We'll get something, but it ain't going to be earth-shattering. Again, they've, just like the last one, I suspect it was a really good report. Probably had some information in there that hadn't been made public, stuff you and I would suspect would be in there. But dadgummit, they got a hold of it and said, "Wait a minute, let's back off this." And then they put out that lame report that they had, and now they're even backtracking off of that to further discourage any. And in the vast and a lot, people are like Pavlov's dog. Unfortunately, I mean, they ring the bell and people come running. They just start getting salivating, and that's the way the government says it, so they're going to believe it. And you think the talking heads are going to the ABC, the NBC, the CBS, the CNNs, and the Fox News, you think they're going to go too far off the trail? I don't think so. I don't think they will. I don't think they got the guts to do it.
There's that one statement by the New York Times, I think in 2017, stating that there was a quote that we recovered off-world vehicles, or vehicles not made of this earth. And then the New York Times retracted that statement 24 hours later. Was that almost the smoking gun of like Roswell? Unfortunately, they retracted the Roswell story the next day as well. What do you think that statement was all about when they stated that they recovered vehicles not made of this earth? What was your hunch on that?
I think that they, just like in the past, something got out. They didn't weren't paying attention, and then the puppet master said, "Wait a minute, we need to pull that back. That shouldn't be out." And they make all and it happens. It's like the ward healer calling a local mayor, or a the millionaire calling the governor, or multi-billionaire calling the president of the United States. Things tend to move when those dollar signs are attached, and that's exactly what's happening. Exactly.
Any inclination of who these puppet masters are? Is it an individual? Is it a group of people? As some people say, it's transnational. It's a group of world elites that could be in charge.
I think when you're seeing people that for instance, can fly. I'll use this as an example that can. Just recently, the United Nations came out with this fake meat was a good thing. The FDA came out with it, and then all of a sudden the UN comes out with something on it. And then when our usual cast of billionaires have invested heavily in it, and then they bought up farmland that would produce cattle, thousands and thousands of acres of it, and then you're seeing foreign nationals control our meat processing in this country, and then ridiculous rules and regulations that are passed on meat production. It doesn't take long to figure it. You can call it a conspiracy, you can call it whatever you want, but the big boys are manipulating it, and they're playing fast and furious with it, with our lives, and they're doing that. And that's just one example, and then go down the list of countless others. But that one just popped into my head because I've done a little research on it. So I think you could easily see that some of those folks are in fact involved in this. I mean, they manipulate currency values, things like that the average citizen, you're sitting here at the barbershop or something, or I'm hanging out with my buddies. It's not, well, a lot of my buddies are pretty well educated. They understand it, but the average citizen, they're too busy paying their bills. Price of fuel goes up, and they're worried about keeping their house heated. They're not worried about it. Some jackleg manipulating currency values in other countries and driving their value down and buying their dollars up, and then wrecking economies and things like that. They don't understand that. All they understand is they're paying more at the pump, and they can't afford it. So I think they're just, yeah, I do believe they are. I think they're arrogant, and I think they'll meet their maker one day, but unfortunately they're going to make us pay for it while they're here.
It's a tough hill to climb here. We're dealing against Goliath, and we're this kind of underdog that's wanting to get out and find disclosure, change the world. But again, this cover-up has been going on since 1940. You mentioned Roswell. Are we at the cusp of, again? Well, let me just backtrack this. See, you're a congressman. Are you able to convince other congressmen to join this kind of fight in regards to disclosure, or are people in Congress, like you say, losing interest because of these delays and maybe the public interest is waning?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. And, when I have members come up to me and tell me, Burchett, there's so much more important things we need to be dealing with than this. And I go back to the point, something flying in our airspace, in our military airspace that we don't control, and that's not important. I just think somebody's got these folks' ear, and and I think too, they're bought easily. Somebody whispers in their ear, "Hey man, you need to back off this thing. This ain't nothing. We need to be working on this," and that's their bread and butter. It's a issue that provides jobs in their district. So of course they're going to back off of it. And maybe that's a threat. Maybe it's just very creative suggestion, but that's where we're at today.
Is NASA going to give us any answers? They got into the UFO hunt as a few months ago. We're not hearing anything yet, but
No, heck no.
Why did they even bother saying it then? Why? What is this? Some kind of joke saying we're going to get into the UFO hunt, and then why would NASA even?
They know
involved?
$1. They'll get a few. You know, I've talked to folks around here, scientific community, and I said, look, I said, you ought to get into this. I said, there's gonna be federal dollars to study this, to research the data. You know, we've got the biggest, fastest supercomputer in the world, whatever that is, down here at Oak Ridge. It always goes here and then it's somewhere else, and Oak Ridge gets one bigger. And but that's where they ought to be analyzing the data, and there's dollars that follow it. But the problem is, like when I was mayor, there's always these do-gooder groups that come in and, oh, we're going to put this thing together. And, you know, they're all well-intentioned. They had one called, and it was well-intentioned bunch, but it's called 9 Counties, 1 Vision. And my buddies, the Chillbillies, had a band, and they called their world tour 9 Counties, Blurred Vision. And they played in 9 counties, you know. So, but play on words there, a little plug for my buddy's band. But they, but I just don't see it going anywhere. You know, it's a nice study. It looks good on the front end. It's well intentioned, and it'll end up on somebody's shelf somewhere in a nice binder, you know, $50 million later or whatever. And I don't see anything going from it. And that's unfortunate. I think we'll fund it on the beginning, but we won't do the follow-up. It's like Charlie Wilson's War. You know, they over there and they helped the Afghans or whoever throw the Russians out, and then they wouldn't follow up, and then 9/11 happens. I know there's a lot that happened in between there, but it you know, front end sexy, yeah, we'll get involved. The back end, when the real work starts, it ain't gonna happen. There'll be a nice little study on a shelf somewhere.
Well, you know, we're gonna keep up the fight, and I know you're kind of the solo guy over there in Congress. We've been trying to reach out to other congressmen. You're the only one that's kind of like dealing with the public, and we appreciate it so much. And I know our listeners appreciate it, and people that are watching this. I hear a lot about Tim Burchett in the community, and people are praising that you're one of the few voices out there that's trying to get answers, and you're one of the insiders over there in Washington. So hopefully you keep knocking on doors. I know it's getting tough, and now you're not even able to get to some of these things or even participate because they could some kind of blackmail or some kind of agreement that, hey, look, we're going to show this to you, but then you can't tell anybody. So what's the purpose of that at this point as well? We need a little bit more transparency. I just hope that there's something that comes up from our government, but I'm not keeping my fingers crossed anymore. I think it's up to us again. It's the public that's going to bring disclosure, and maybe the assistance of people in your position that could help us out, get the information to a bigger audience if we come across some smoking gun evidence. But then again, we got to be careful when we do on how we're going to release it, from what it sounds like, because these people are going to, they're going to raid. They're raiding people's homes if they have some sensitive information. So it's a fine line we're all walking on right now, but hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Any last words there, Tim?
No, but if you're a whistleblower, don't bring it to Congress. If you do, I'd be very careful. Make sure it goes to the right person in Congress, because it's a dangerous deal. I would hope that get it out.
Who's the right person? Is this you?
Well, I would be, but I'm not asking for somebody to commit espionage or anything. I just, you feel like something illegal's happened, I would like to know about it. That's for sure. Like I said, I don't want them to violate any federal laws or anything like that. I'm not, but we, right now the Judiciary Committee is full of FBI whistleblowers. I think they had up to 14 whistleblowers. They're just blowing the lid off of what's going on, because things that are going on are not legal. and that's the proper channel. But we got to get a venue. We got to make sure that these folks that do blow the whistle on some of this stuff have some security in their life, that they don't have to worry about somebody coming after them. So I'd be very cautious.
Well, we appreciate it, Tim. Thanks for joining us here at Third Phase. It's been insightful. Hopefully we could catch up with you soon and find some disclosure out there. And
I hope I'm wrong. I hope that report that's supposed to come out in October
knocks our socks off. Let's see something good.
Let's see it. And then
let's see the whole 20-minute video. Let's see the cube within the sphere. Let's see something that defies or seemingly defies the laws of physics. But so far we haven't seen anything. But man, it's a tricky thing. But your honesty and your insight and your just jestfulness in this field is really an amazing thing. So we appreciate it again, Tim. And you be safe and say hi to the dogs and the wife and the family. And again, congratulations on your re-election.
I hope everybody has a very blessed Thanksgiving. Friend.
Same to you, Tim. You have a good one. We'll talk to you. Appreciate it so much. Well, that was Congressman Tim Burchett right here at Third Phase of Moon. You saw it. Pretty wild ride. Are we going to get the answers we're looking for? Probably not. As Congressman states, we're going up against something that is very sensitive to disclosure. Is it possible that we will get it from our government? Man, at this point, it seems pretty tough. Is NASA going to give it to us? We heard the congressman. Most likely not. So again, it's up to the people to bring it. And if you've captured anything amazing out there, or you want the congressman to see something that could change the world in regards to disclosure, you might have material not of this earth. You might have video that the world hasn't seen yet. Let us know. We'll take a look at it, and who knows, we'll maybe submit it to the congressman and break it to the world. Everybody, be safe out there. Blake Cousins, we'll see you next time. Thank you.